Welcome back to Rand on Real Estate. I'm Greg Rand, your host, 77 WABC and WABCRadio.com. Welcoming back Laura Smith, my co-host. How are you?
Great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so as promised, we've got somebody on the phones here, a guy named Gregg Fous, who is the CEO of Market America, who is a real estate investment professional and a broker who specializes in working with investors in Southwest Florida. How you doing, Greg?
We're doing great. Thank you.
Good. Well, thanks for coming on the air with us. I found Greg online when I saw that he was kind of speaking a similar language than I was, and is in there in the trenches. I like focusing on Florida for reasons I just gave and that Greg knows about, that the trends of migration in Florida just ensure that property values will be supported down there in the long term. But what are you seeing in the short term? Are people waking up to this opportunity down there?
Inventories are being depleted. I get asked every day what's happening with prices. Have we bottomed out? And of course, there's pockets that may still see some decrease, perhaps in the higher end, middle of the higher end. But the lower end of the market, and for us down in Southwest Florida, that could be literally in the 50s now, but generally in the 50s to the $150,000 range. We're seeing upticks in pricing.
So you've got property down there that's priced under $100,000?
We have properties priced down here under $45 per square foot. To build a house now in our market, a basic house without land, $80 a square foot.
All right, so you're talking about, just paint a picture. So a 3-bedroom, single-family house, that fundamental housing unit. Describe for me, what is that going to cost me? $90,000 for something like that? Or you tell me.
Lehigh Acres and Cape Coral are two areas that vie for ground zero of the housing debacle. In Lehigh Acres, comfortable home, probably need to add appliances, might need to add air, $60,000.
$60,000. Now, what can
Coral, you're $90,000.
So you're finding investors coming down there from out of state?
We have I can tell you the inventory is depleting because we have more buyers than we have property that meet their requirements.
So are the investors coming, are they local investors, most of them, or are they coming from other parts of the country?
Most of the investors are local, but I will tell you that we are rediscovering what South Florida is all about, and that's retirement. Right. And we've got a lot of people that now their retirement home is affordable.
Now, does the rental potential for that $65,000 house, is the rental potential there to be able to have it be a break-even rental investment?
Great question. That dog now hunts again. You can buy a house and actually get a cap rate from in single-family homes now, where in the past that was.
So what kind of cap rate are you talking about? I'll explain what that means in a second. Are you talking about a 6 or a 7 cap?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so what that means is that
low cap rates. Maybe in 2 years ago, 5 years ago, you couldn't get a cap rate that made any sense at all. Now people are buying homes and inventorying them, and just you can rent a home for $900 that you bought for $60,000.
All right. So what cap rate means for those listening is, think of it this way: if you paid $60,000 cash for the property, and you rented it out, you'd be making after your expenses about a 6% return on your money, which means if you put half of it down, your actual return is much higher than that. But the point is that you can buy a piece of property, and this is what I think it's true that the retirement into a market like that doubles down the opportunity, because somebody who's looking at Southwest Florida, and these are places like, the Sanibel Islands, Captiva Island Coast, Fort Myers, Naples, there's some pretty high-end brand name communities on the coastline there. You go inland a little ways, and the prices drop pretty quickly as you go away from the ocean or the Gulf of Mexico. But what people can do is, if you like Southwest Florida, and there's other places like this, and you decide you want to end up there in 20 years when you retire, you take a position in that market. You may not go down to the house, okay? If you buy a house in Lehigh Acres, you're not going water skiing out front, okay? It's inland, so it's not exactly the vacation house that you're going to wind up going down to, so don't treat it that way. You buy it, you put it in inventory, as Greg said, which means you basically hang on to it, and you rent it out. And then as time goes by, as the values come back, you're in a position to roll that property into the next one, roll it into the next one. We call it in my book the snowball strategy, where you take one position, the cheapest one you can get. When things go a little better, you roll it up to the next one, roll it up to the next one. You're deferring your capital gains tax every single time you do one of these transactions. And when you're done in 20 years, you might have whatever it is you need to pay cash for something on the waterfront because you've seen the opportunities and rolled that thing up as you went along.
Greg, there's two categories of investors down here. Investors coming from the north or they're local. They're buying a home that was foreclosed on, perhaps has been vacant for a while, fixing it up and selling it in a normal market. They're paying cash and they put it back on the market and selling it to a finance buyer.
Really?
Returns, we target returns for our investors that, and this is just targets, no promises, but they like to get 20% over 90 days, which, easy math, that's 80% return per year. Problem is you can't just keep on rolling that without any time between your investments.
So by way of explanation, let me just time out a second just to explain that. So somebody who's coming in as a cash buyer right now is able, if they're buying a foreclosure, the bank is basically looking for a quick turnaround on this transaction. And if somebody comes in and says, okay, I want to buy that property, I'm going to occupy it, it's going to be my house, I have to go get a mortgage, the bank says, okay, well, this guy's offering me 60 grand, but I have somebody over here offering me 45, but he's got cash in his hand, he can close in 30 days. You're saying the banks are taking that deal over the financed one, is that right?
70% of the time, they're taking the cash deal.
So it's the pain of the bank that you're capitalizing on.
I'll give you a real-life example of one we've just done. Purchased a house for $112. That's the total cost, $112.
Okay.
3-bedroom, 2-bath with a pool, 3-car garage, all the appliances except washer and dryer, pool equipment. Put $7,000 in it. Granite countertops. We had fine countertops, but just to upgrade it. Granite countertops, some new carpet. Put it on the market for $159. Got an offer at $130. Countered at $145. Accepted $140. Closed 21 days after buying the property at $140. A total of, I think it's $116. Oh, I'm sorry, about $118 in the house.
So they got they made a $20,000 profit in a month and a half.
In 21 days.
21 days. All right. So
it's a great country.
It's interesting. I'm a big advocate of buying and holding, but the existence of properties that you can buy under market, that's the whole point here, is that it isn't just that the Florida market is in a storm right now. It's the fact that the banks are the ones who have, imagine a banker in a room with files stacked all the way to the ceiling, and he's got somebody who's going to make a deal and take one of those files off his desk. You can get yourself a fantastic deal. Greg, we have to wrap this thing up soon. Tell everybody how they can find you.
MarketAmericaRealty.com. The last name is Fous, F-O-U-S. I'm all over the internet. I write a weekly newsletter for real estate investors.
Fantastic. Well, thank you.
MarketAmericaRealty.com.
Market America. I like the name. I'm Own America. I guess we should have talked before now. Anyway, hey, thank you so much for being on the show, Greg. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right, have a great day. Okay, so what does this all mean? It means that it isn't just a bunch of hooey, a bunch of talk about how Florida is an opportunity. Here's a man who is showing people how to buy things under market, manufacture wealth right now. And if you bought that property he just described and you rented it out, you have a $20,000 head start on the wealth building potential of that property. So thank you for being with us. This is Greg Rand. My website is ownamerica.com, and this is Rand on Real Estate. We'll see you soon.